Hi friends, this is Denario Research and welcome to the part number 18 of cryptocurrency trading bot tutorial. In the previous video we have finished integration of WebSockets into our bot, and today we start to work on orders placement. Bitfinex, like many other exchanges, offers two types of orders: limit and market orders. Let's look at them closer. Limit and market orders have their pros and cons. Market order type guarantees immediate execution of the order. That means that order will be executed once it being placed, and order will be executed at some market price, which we do not know in advance. This is actually major cons of market order. We do not have control over the price, but we pay this extra cost for the speed of execution. Instead, limit orders are executed always at specific predetermined price. But immediate execution and execution at all is not guaranteed. Limit order may hang forever in order book without any action. Period of limit order execution depends on limit order position inside of the order book. Because control over the price is more important than speed of execution, we'll use limit orders in our strategy. Bot will simply place a limit order at specific price, check it every few seconds, and if this order is not executed within certain period of time, bot will simply cancel this order and will wait for the next suitable conditions. So today we need to create three functions. First one will place limit order, the second one will check this limit order, and the last one will cancel this limit order. But before we move on, I need to fix two bugs. The first one here, when I created ATR property for each pair in pairs object, I made a typo. Instead of ADR, I should type ATR. So let's fix that. And instead of ADX periods, I should certainly use ATR periods variable. Okay, let's remove this tag. And the second bug is in update indicators function. When actually pair moving average value is updated, the same value is assigned to previous value. So we should replace these statements. So let's copy here and paste them here. So when we call update indicators function, firstly we will assign current moving average value to previous moving average value and current last price to previous close price. And then we'll get some information from our indicators and update moving average, ADX and ATR values. Okay, now we are ready. Let's save this file and switch to bfxtrade.js. Here we will use Bitfinex API node library for Bitfinex calls, and we will use actually REST API. So in order to use REST API, we'll create extra constant and we'll call it REST, and this constant will equal to bfx.rest version 1. Now let's go to the bottom of this file and we'll create three empty functions. The first empty function will use prototyping, so bfx trade prototype, and we'll call this function trade. This function actually will place limit orders, so let's keep it empty for now. The second function, actually I have to call it function this way. The second function will be used only internally, so it doesn't require any prototyping, and this function will check order. Okay, we call it check order, and it will be empty for now as well. And the third function is cancel order. It will actually cancel order. Okay, let's keep it empty too. Cancel order is the most simple function, so we'll start to work with it. For orders cancellation, we'll use Bitfinex API node function that is called cancel order. This function has two parameters. The first one is order ID, which is unique identifier of every order that is placed on the Bitfinex exchange. And actually you can manipulate the order by knowing its order ID. And callback. So let's go here and also place same parameters like order ID and callback. Also we'll use pair name just for more info to get more information from this function. And let's call rest cancel order. Place our order ID, and as a callback we'll have function that has error and data. Here we of course have to check if we have any error, so let's create if statement. If we don't have any error, then make some action. Else if we have error, so to do something. In case we have an error, let's print some information about it. So console log pair name and text like error occurred when canceling order and order ID. And error information itself. So console log error to string. So if we have an error, we'll print some information about this error, but also we need to repeat this function in order to cancel this error, cancel this order. So let's call this function. So we'll use some recursion and we'll call this function again. But let's create some delay. So set timeout, function, and we'll delay this. So check in a second. And let's put this function call inside of timeout. So if we have an error, we'll print information about this error, wait for a second, and try to call cancel order function again. In case everything was okay, so let's simply type console log pair name, order was cancelled, and order ID. Oh, here I need to figure and put comma, and return callback. So this was the simplest function. Now once you are warmed up, we can go to check order function. In order to know whether our order was executed or not, we'll use Bitfinex active orders function. As you see, this function has only callback parameter and it returns the array of orders objects. Each object has its unique ID, and by knowing ID of our order, we'll check whether this array contains order with our ID or not. If array does not contain order with our ID, we may assume that order was executed. Check order function requires following arguments. First would be self, in order to get access to basic trade properties. Then we need pair name, order ID of course, action, whether we open or close position, and of course callback. Well, sometimes Bitfinex returns null instead of order ID, or order ID with value of 0. This means that order was executed immediately. So let's make small check. If order ID and order ID and order ID is not equal to 0, is not equal to 0, then make some actions, else we'll make a console message, console log, pair name, and type order was executed immediately. Okay, and return callback. Callback with value true, which means that order was successfully executed. If order ID has non-zero value, let's query active orders. Let's type rest active orders, and this function has only one parameter callback, which is function error data. Okay, and now we need of course check for error. So if we don't have any error, then we continue, else we need to type error code or error information, console log error to string, and call check order function again. So let's also add some delay, set timeout, function, and add 2 seconds delay. And let's copy this part and paste it here. So if we have some error, we'll put information in the console and wait for 2 seconds and run check order function again. Now let's work with active orders function. Firstly, let's copy order IDs from each order object into separate array. So to do this, let's create some array, let's call it active orders, and it would be empty. Now let's loop through the data, var order of data, and push inside active orders array, push order ID. Okay, once it's done, we need to check where our order ID is inside of this array. We can do that with following function. If active orders index of our order ID to string is greater than -1, then it means that our order ID is inside of this array, and else if it is not inside of this array. If we don't have order ID inside active orders array, that means that order was closed. So let's console log where order was closed, and return callback. Return callback true. Now let's work for the case if order ID is inside of this array. Here we'll have two cases depending on action type. The first case would be for opening and closing position, and the second case would be for stop loss order. If in the first case we'll check order some limited number of times, and then we'll cancel it till the next suitable conditions. But we cannot cancel stop loss order, and that means that we need to continue checking. So let's create yet another if statement. If action equals to open or action equals to close, and else if we place stop loss order, because we cannot cancel it, we need to continue checking. So we'll simply copy and paste this statement here. So we'll check it every 2 seconds. Now we need to create a counter for orders check. So let's go to Bitfinex trade properties and create this orders. Let's call it order checks, and it would be empty object. And in check order function, we'll check whether this counter exceeds some max value or not. So if order checks for this pair is greater than some max value, let it be 900. So that means that we can keep order opened for 900 multiplied by 2000, 30 minutes. So if it is less actually than 900, so we continue checking. If it is equal or greater, we will cancel order. So firstly we need to reset counter. So let's make equal to 0. And second thing, we need to call function cancel order. Cancel order, and provide required parameters like pair order ID and function and inside of this function we'll return callback with false value. That means that order was not executed and this order was cancelled. For the case when orders check is less than 900, we'll simply wait 2 seconds and we'll call check order function again. Let's fix formatting. But before we call check order function, we need to increment check orders counter, orders checks counter. So that's plus plus. And I forgot to add self prefix here. Self, self, and self. Well, this is it. That's actually one of the two most complex functions here. Now we are able to check orders for execution, and finally we need to create function that places orders on the exchange. It is very similar to test trade function, so we'll borrow something from it and we'll add our some specific parameters. For order placement, we'll use new order function from Bitfinex API. It has, as you see, many parameters, so let's look closer at them. The first parameter is symbol, which is pair with trade amount, price, so very simple. Site means whether we buy or sell. Type, we have market type or limit type. We'll of course use limit type. As you see, you have option exchange limit. That means that we trade only on a spot exchange. Limit means that we trade on margin. Exchange, the default value is Bitfinex, and the rest parameters are optional. When this function is successfully called, we'll have the following response, which is JSON object, and this object contains following information about our order. Order ID, that's the thing we need, symbol, and so on. Let's simply copy these parameters and paste and edit them inside our trade function. Okay, let's rename symbol to pair, amount, price are okay, we do not need exchange parameter, site okay, we do not need type because we'll place only limit orders, we do not need is hidden and post only, and we need only callback. Also we'll add action parameter, which means whether we open or close position or we place stop loss order. Well, now we need to create self variable or self, which is equal to this. And let's type in the console that we are entering in the trade for some pair. Pair and placing new order. Okay, now we need to call new order function. Let's go to the website and copy this function again. It would be easy and faster. And paste it here. So we'll call it through rest new order. Here we'll place our pair instead of symbol. Amount will be copied from here, price as well. Instead of exchange, we'll type Bitfinex. Site will be also taken from here, and type would be limit. And as a callback, we'll have function that returns error and data. So as usual, let's check for error. If we don't have error, do something, and else if we have an error. If we have an error, we'll typically console log error information, error to string, and we'll return callback, actually callback function with false value. Return. And here we need to convert our values to strings, amount and price. To string and price to string as well. Okay. And finally, if order was placed successfully, let's make a console message like pair order was placed. Let's put price, amount, and ID. It would be data ID. And once we place the order, we need to wait 2 seconds, set timeout, function 2 seconds, and start checking this order, whether it is executed or not. So we need to call function check order. The parameters it requires self, pair name, order ID, it would be data ID, action, which is taken from here, and callback function. As a callback function, we have only one parameter, which is success, whether order was executed or order was cancelled. And actually, we'll return this value, return callback success. Well, success parameter has two values. True, if trade was successful. By this I mean order was placed without any errors, orders was checked, and order was executed. Or false. This means that order was not placed successfully or order was cancelled. This is all. We have implemented 3 important functions for orders placement on Bitfinex exchange. In the next video, I will try to integrate these 3 functions into Manager Optimized JS. Thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want more videos, and leave your questions in the comment section below. Bye!